Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Herald here on Badlands Media. And it looks like the big, beautiful bill is going to be passing the House sometime today, if Hakeem Jeffries ever shuts the fuck up. Apologies for the swear jar there. Yeah, last night in the Power Hour, we talked a lot about, is this what Trump actually wanted? It's going to pass. Either way, it's a win for Trump. And I also said I hadn't actually gone through the bill yet. I started doing that a little bit this morning, and there's some sneaky stuff going on. We'll talk a little bit about it, and we can kind of, if there's anything you guys want me to look up while we're live, we can do that, because a lot of the headlines today are focused on the big, beautiful bill. So there's not a whole lot of other news. I mean, there's other stuff we'll get into, but yeah. So we'll talk a lot about that and probably get you out of here early again. So let's kick things off with a quick word from the sponsor of today's show, and that's Oneness Drops.
Hey Badlands fam, Jordan here, and I'm appearing on your screen to tell you about a buy one get one free sale that a partner company of mine is having, Oneness Drops. Oneness makes chlorine dioxide kits for all of your pathogen and cancer cell killing needs, or if you're just trying to disinfect some water. If you don't know about the amazing nature of chlorine dioxide, I have plenty of articles and videos on the subject on my channels, or you can ask Red Pill 78 about it. Him and I have been lit up by the media over the years for talking about chlorine dioxide. Plus, Oneness just launched their newest product, DMSO. DMSO has been going viral recently, and for very good reason. It can help with a variety of issues, such as protecting the heart and the nervous system, like the brain, helping with the GI tract, helping with wound healing, combating inflammation, helping to strengthen joints, helping with cellular detoxification, and so much more. Now the thing is, this sale ends this Saturday, July 5th, so you gotta act quick. Go to onenessdrops.com and use the promo code BOGOJORDAN, that's B-O-G-O Jordan, and they will double whatever you order on the house for free. And if you want more information on how to use chlorine dioxide or DMSO, feel free to send me an email or a message, and I'll get back to you and send you down the right path. Again, that's onenessdrops.com, promo code BOGOJORDAN. Take care, everyone.
EC was here in the chat, says that he uses, I guess I don't want to assume your gender. I don't know if you're a guy or a girl, but you use Oneness Drops in all your emergency water storage. And that's pretty cool. All right, real quick, no update on the Doge website, kind of as expected. The only update or change to the White House website is a proclamation celebrating the 160th anniversary of the United States Secret Service. And then Trump's Truth Social, pretty busy over the last 24 hours. A lot of it having to do with the big, beautiful bill, trying to get this thing pushed through. Talking about growth again. We talked about that last night. Largest tax cuts in history in a booming economy versus biggest tax increase in history in a failed economy. What are Republicans waiting for? What are you trying to prove? Mega's not happy, and it's costing you votes. And then we got this one. What a great night it was. One of the most consequential bills ever. The USA is the hottest country in the world by far. And I forgot to get this pulled up, but I'm going to do that right now. Chad Pergram, he's kind of been the guy I've been following for a lot of the procedural updates. And right now on the floor, it's basically Hakeem Johnson speaking. And once he's done, that's when they'll have the vote. But here's a little clip. Probably won't play the whole thing, but this is Chad Pergram talking about, I'll have to listen to this ad. Once this ad is over, then we'll get into it. But kind of giving an update. He's there. They were up like all night. The whole thing is ridiculous. But the House got, the GOP anyway, got their holdovers to vote on the procedural thing. I think that happened at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and then they moved forward and they're on to the next thing. And once they're done with their customary talking from the House leadership, they'll get into the actual bill here. So here's a status update.
right now, the House is debating the Senate's changes to President Trump's big, beautiful bill.
So lawmakers are expected to cast their final vote after hours of back and forth with GOP holdouts.
Senior congressional correspondent Chad.
By the way, this was at 6 a.m. Eastern, so it's been like what 7 hours since then, but we're still in the same holding pattern.
Following every step of the way all night long, he joins us now from Capitol Hill. Hey, Chad.
Guys, good morning. That final vote on the big, beautiful bill is imminent. We expect that to start sometime within the next 45 minutes to an hour. Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, he is giving his final speech. We will then hear from House Speaker Mike Johnson, and then they will go to a final vote. We expect this to pass, but there was certainly some drama here last night. It appeared briefly that they did not have the votes to pass this bill. The reason, there were 8 Republicans who had not voted and 5 on the board who had voted no. It's about the math. They can only lose 3 votes in the House of Representatives and still pass a bill. So they had to switch some of those members over. That happened. There was a meeting between Steve Scalise, the majority leader, House Speaker Mike Johnson, a phone call with President Trump at one point. They gave them some assurances, to put other bills on the floor, and also maybe some promises of executive orders from the president. Remember, the problem here that some of these House conservatives had was that this is not the same bill that they approved in the House back in May. This is essentially the Senate bill, and they are lining up with that. So there were.
And that's something I'm taking issue with. We're going to go over a couple things that they passed a bill, even though I don't like the bill at all, right? I don't like 1,000+ pages, even though now it's down to like 850. I don't like the raising the debt. It doesn't do everything it says it's going to do. There are good things in there, but there's also bad things in there. But yeah, the changes is what's crazy. I'm surprised that they moved this quickly to get this passed through. Where we're at now, and this was as of like an hour and a half ago, Jeffries has been now speaking for 6 straight hours against the big, beautiful bill. McCarthy set the record for the longest House speech in 2021 when he spoke for 8 hours and 32 minutes against the Build Back Better bill, a different BBB. Jeffries could set the new mark if he speaks until just before 1:30 p.m. Eastern. So in about 20 minutes here, he'll have the record for the longest House floor speech. And basically all it is this is like a form of filibustering. He's going to speak. I mean, can he speak for 4 years and just never get this thing passed? Doubt it. But anyway, I want to show you guys this. So, actually, first let's play this video. This is one of the things he said in his speech.
Assault on health care in the United States of America, people will die. Tens of thousands. Perhaps year after year after year. As a result of the Republican assault on the health care of the American people. I'm sad. I never thought that I'd be on the House floor saying that this is a crime scene. And House Democrats want no part of it. Assault on health care in the.
It's a little ridiculous. So this isn't technically a filibuster. I should correct. That's something that Chad asked. What's the record for longest filibuster? The longest actual, by definition filibuster, which happens in the Senate, was delivered by Cory Booker, and it lasted 25 hours and 5 minutes. Happened just a couple months ago while protesting the second presidency of Donald Trump. Prior to that, the longest was Strom Thurmond, who spoke for 24 hours and 18 minutes in 1957. But what they do is they have this, like, in the House before the passing of each bill, the leaders of each party, they get like it's a courtesy. They get to speak for as long as they want. They call it a magic minute, but they go as long as they want. And so Jeffries, who knows, eventually he's going to have to stop, but whatever. Anyway, I want to show you guys this. So I went through the 2 bills, and not in detail. I just looked at a couple of the key talking points that were being passed by the administration and people that were in favor of the bill. And so this is the original one. I'm going to show you guys no tax on tips. Let's start there. We'll go to this section. And this is it. In general, there should be allowed as a deduction an amount equal to the qualified tips received during the taxable year that are included on statements furnished to the individual person. So it's technically not no tax. They're still paying tax, but they get a complete deduction of whatever they earned in tips. That's what it's going to be. So if you made $1,000 in tips, you would get $1,000 deduction, and so the tax would, equal itself out. So the result of it would be there would be no tax on those tips. Okay, they didn't put any cap or any limitation on that in here, and they went through a lot defining what qualifies as a tip and what industries count. But the new bill that we're getting, let me show you this now. No tax on tips. And this is what they changed. The Senate version, which is being voted on today, is same thing, same language about there should be allowed as a deduction, but now they put a limitation on it. The amount allowed as a deduction under the section for any taxable year will not exceed or shall not exceed $25,000. And then it goes even further. If you make too much money in tips, like if your adjusted gross income exceeds $150,000, that will continue to be reduced, but not below zero, by $100 for each $1,000 by which the taxpayer's modified adjusted gross income exceeds $150,000. So like if you make too much in tips, you might not get any deduction. But this is not the no tax on tips that Trump campaigned on. The House version, original version, had it. This new version doesn't. There will be some tax on tips if you make too much of it. And the same thing can be said for overtime. The original overtime, no tax on overtime. Go back to the original House version, down to here. There shall be allowed as a deduction an amount equal to the qualified overtime compensation received during the taxable year. Okay, and they go through what qualifies, everything, same thing. But then the new version, no tax on overtime. Go down to the section. Limitation. The amount allowed as a deduction under this section for any taxable year shall not exceed $12,500. And that's a pretty low amount. Like I know a lot of people in the oil field industry. I mean, I don't know them anymore, but back in the day, like they were making a majority of their income through like overtime stuff. Like they were making a ton, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in overtime pay. They go out there for a week on, week off, or whatever, 2 weeks at a time, and then 2 weeks off, and just constantly work and rake in the overtime stuff. This $12,500 for the people that work a lot of overtime, that's going to burn out pretty quick in some of these industries. It's not that much. So we really can't say there's no tax on tips anymore or no tax on overtime, which are the two big ones being pushed, because there will be some on both for most people who get money that way. This is what the government does. They sneak this stuff in there. And I've been working with ChatGPT trying to like get a detailed listing so I don't have to go through it by myself and figure out all the changes. But yeah, this is gross. ChatGPT does not do, at least for now, hasn't done a great job in giving me what I want on that. But yeah, guys, that is not no tax on tips. For some people, like this will be a big deal. This will be very helpful. I'm not denying that. Like it's better than the way it was before. I'm not denying that either. But it's also not what was promised. And it's not what Trump was asking for. The congressional branch of our government has, once again, worked against Trump and his promises. And this is just like one example. I could go on and on. Let me actually show you this. No tax. Okay, and then let me do the original bill first. Just this one section on taxing. So right here, this was the entire section of the original bill that passed the House. Additional tax relief for American families and workers. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I guess 16 sections in here that had to do with providing tax relief. Okay, good stuff. You go to the Senate version, there's 4 sections. It went from 16 to 4. And this is what's actually getting pushed through. Now, that doesn't mean that some of these other things in the original bill aren't in here elsewhere. But remember, the first bill was 1,118 pages. This new bill is 870 pages. They took out a lot of pages, a lot of stuff. And that's not even to mention like stuff that they added back in that is bullshit. So yeah, not too impressed, but it is what it is. Trump wanted it. At least he said he wanted it. We'll see what he does with it. I think, this bill, the growth that we're seeing in our economy would happen in spite of this bill, regardless of this bill. That won't matter. This is different. This is, the government doing what the government does. And I want to see less government. So I want to see less of this stuff. I want less government spending. I want less of a deficit. I want no deficit. And, maybe we'll get that. Would we have gotten that without this bill passing? Maybe. I think the big part of this, though, is, making permanent Trump's original 2017 tax cuts, even though, they were big. Them going back to the original version, we went through this yesterday or the day before. It wasn't going to be as damaging as advertised, but I'm glad that it's not going to happen. I do want to find, hold on. Here we go. This is an article that kind of goes through some of the stuff that's in the bill. Republicans are getting closer to the finish line and getting their tax and spending cut bill through Congress. Blah, blah, blah. Tax cuts are the priority. The legislation contains about $4.5 trillion in tax cuts. I'm still trying to figure out where that is and if that's counting like just making the existing tax cuts permanent, which it says it will. But I don't know if that is counting towards these tax cuts because that's not really the same as cutting something if it's already that way. You know what I mean? No taxes on tips and overtime pay. That's not quite true. It's changed a little bit. There will be some. The ability to deduct interest payments for some automotive loans with a $6,000 deduction for older adults who earn no more than $75,000 a year. That's like the thing they were talking about, no tax on Social Security. That's not in there anymore. It's just this deduction for older adults who earn more than $75,000 a year. Also, something I found a little sneaky. Let me show you this. For the car loan interest one, this is what they have in here. For qualified passenger vehicle loan interest defined. The term qualified passenger vehicle means any interest which is paid or accrued during the taxable year that is secured by a first lien on applicable passenger vehicle for personal use. So it has to be the first loan, okay? It's not going to finance, it can't go towards fleet sales. It can't do any commercial vehicles that is not used for personal use. No lease financing. Nothing with a salvage title. And some of this stuff I can get behind and make sense why they're doing it this way. But then this is the part. Hold on, I just gotta find it. Here we go. Interest shall not be treated as qualified passenger vehicle loan interest under this paragraph unless the taxpayer includes the vehicle identification number of the applicable passenger vehicle described in clause on return of tax for the taxable year. So you have to give the government your VIN number, which they probably already had anyway. The DMV gets it. But I just thought that was interesting that they specified having that in there. And then again, they put a limit on it. And this was in the original bill too, the limitation of $10,000. Which that would be a lot in interest. Anyway, but if you have multiple vehicles, maybe not. I don't know. But then they also have a gross income thing here too. So the amount which is otherwise allowable as a deduction as qualified passenger vehicle loan interest determined without regard to this blah, 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 shall be reduced by $200 for each $1,000 by which the modified adjusted gross income of the taxpayer for the taxable year exceeds $100,000. So if you make too much money, you don't get to benefit from the vehicle loan deduction. And that's what stuff like this just drives me nuts. I believe, first of all, that we shouldn't be paying taxes, but if we do pay taxes, it should be fair for everybody. It should be a flat rate for everybody. Everybody should get the same stuff. But they always do bullshit like this, where one person will get the benefits one way, but then as you make more personal income, whether it's because you work harder, you have a better job, whatever, then you start to lose those benefits that the other people don't get, or the other people do get. You don't get the same thing. So if you make too much money, you don't get the same rights as somebody who makes less money. That's technically what it is, right? I think that is stupid and not fair. Flat tax rate is where I'm at. Anyway, let's go back to this. It boosts the child tax credit to $2,200, the $2,000 tax credit. Millions of families at lower income levels would not get the full credit. Increases the SALT cap, state and local taxes. That's going to benefit a lot of the blue states. People with like California, New York, who have just ridiculous state taxes because their states are poorly run. They're going to get to deduct more of that from the federal, which again, we shouldn't be paying tax anyway. I'm more in favor of local taxes than I am federal taxes. A lot of business related tax cuts. I haven't gotten into any of that stuff, but I do like the idea of writing off cost of equipment. It's like, I guess for me, it doesn't really matter anymore. I don't buy equipment all that much, but would have been helpful when I first bought my computers and stuff. Money for deportations and a border wall and the Golden Dome, that stuff, codifying Trump's agenda. How to pay for it, cuts to Medicaid and other programs. Some of this stuff, like, I haven't gotten into the details of it. I don't know how much we're actually cutting, but the part of this that I like is I don't care how much we cut from this stuff, as long as we're getting rid of people who are fraudulently on the programs in the first place, then it should balance each other out. So a number of extra provisions reflect the GOP priorities. The House and Senate both have a new children's savings program called the Trump accounts, with potential $1,000 deposit from the Treasury. Senate provided $40 million to establish Trump's long-sought National Guard and the Heroes. New excise tax on university endowments, $200 tax on gun silencers. Yeah, so we'll see. Maybe over the course of the next couple days, I'll go through anything else that's ridiculous in there, but we'll see. What are you guys thinking in the chat? Oh, Red Peel 78 wife is here. Good with local taxes. Yeah, local government stuff that affects me, like my local the road in front of my house. I'll pay taxes for that stuff. E.H. Kyle, John, is the no tax on tips and overtime still drop off in a few years, or did they make them permanent? That's a good question. Let me see. Qualified tips. In general, the term qualified tips means cash tips received by an individual in an occupation which customarily and regularly receive tips on or before December 31st, 2024. I don't see. You have to put your social security number if you're going to get a tax thing. Termination. No deduction shall be allowed under this section for any taxable year beginning after December 31st, 2028. So they're just doing it through the rest of Trump's term. So it's not permanent this way. Ridiculous. Which, I mean, it should be, they should make this permanent forever, but then they should change it to no tax on tips altogether. Anyway, let's keep going here, unless you guys in the chat have anything really good to say, which, I mean, you always have really good things to say. Tommy's Russell, John, your social security is on your tax return. The government has your, yeah, I know. They know everything about us. I just thought it was interesting they included that in there. That seems to be targeted at illegal aliens. But okay, let's keep going. Trump announced that he is going to be speaking with President Putin of Russia. That was this morning at 10 a.m. I wonder if he's given us a recap of the call yet. Because normally he does that after he speaks with them. I don't see anything on here. But in the meantime, he did post about egg prices coming down. It's always a win. We'll get into the jobs numbers here in a second, but the call announced by Trump in a True Social post comes 2 days after the U.S. said it would halt some missile and ammunition shipments to Ukraine, which continues to fight off invading Russian forces. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered the pause weeks after ordering a review of America's ammunition stockpile, sources told NBC. That's good. Some job report numbers are out, and these are pretty cool. In June, the U.S. added 147,000 payrolls, blowing away the median estimate of 106,000 and higher than the upward revised May print of 144,000. Remarkably, and in dramatic change from the Biden tradition, previous months were revised higher. April was revised up by 11,000 from 147,000 to 158,000, and the change for May was revised up by 5,000 from 139,000 to 144,000. If you remember back to the Biden administration, they were constantly like putting out these awesome numbers that were beating expectations. Then quietly a month later, they would like revise them lower by a lot. Like look at some of these on the bottom here. The red, that's when they revised it lower. That was happening a lot. And then around the time of the election, they started fixing that. It wasn't just the headline print that surprised to the upside. Perhaps an even bigger surprise was the unemployment rate, which dropped from 4.2% to 4.1%, denying expectations of an increase to 4.3% and far below the Fed's recently upward revised estimate of 4.5. It's going to be much harder for the Fed to keep interest rates unchanged. Government employment rose by 73,000 in June. Most of those were state and local ones. Employment in state government increased by 47,000, largely in education. Employment in local government, education continued to trend upward, 23,000, which is interesting because I thought we were going to get rid of the Department of Education. Where are we on that? But job losses continued in federal government. They're down minus 7,000. That's a good thing. It's down 69,000 since reaching a recent peak in January. And then even bigger news with this is this story of where these jobs are coming from. It's the domestic labor renaissance. While no jobs report is without blemishes, the positives far outweigh the negatives, maybe not so much quantitatively, then certainly qualitatively, because as we noted earlier, the most important metric of today's job report is arguably what got Trump elected in the first place. Back in January 2024, we first asked, how is it not the biggest political talking point that since 2019, the U.S. had only added foreign-born workers, which, as we subsequently showed, were primarily illegal aliens, while native workers remained flat or declined. Look at that. This was back in 2024. And these are in the thousands. So that's like millions of foreign-born workers, and we've lost native-born workers. Well, today's job reports. In June, the U.S. added 830,000 native-born workers, pushing the total to a new record high of 132.652 million, hopefully ending the stagnant period, which started in 2019. At the same time, the U.S. saw 348,000 foreign-born workers leave, sending the total to a 2025 low of 31.231. Extending the observation window since the start of Trump's admin, since March, which covers the end of his first full term, the number of native-born workers has surged by 1.5 million, while foreign-born, primarily illegals, have tumbled by 1 million. These are the numbers I love seeing. And this is some of the stuff that, like, we talk about the growth and how these bills, they are what they are, but the growth aspect is we're going to see the benefits of that regardless of what happens with the bill. In spite of the bill, it's things like this. It's American native workers that are getting the jobs and getting the wage increases. And it's the getting rid of the illegal aliens and no more illegal aliens coming here to take jobs. That is good stuff. I'm just going to see. Ash sent over a video. Oh my gosh. This is great. I got to find this. So Hakeem Jeffries on the House floor, right? Given his little like filibuster thing. This is what he said in 2022.
By any means necessary, including reforming a filibuster rule that is dripping in racist history in defense of slavery and Jim Crow.
2022, he's saying filibustering is racist. And here he is. He's been speaking for nearly 9 hours, essentially filibustering. He is filibustering. They just don't call it that in the House, I don't think. Anyway, yeah, jobs report. A lot of native-born workers getting jobs, a lot of illegal aliens not getting them. Oh, this is cool. That the White House released their annual report to Congress on White House office personnel, and we get to see how much each of them make. So if you guys want me to look anybody up, I can. There's a lot of people on the payroll, though. 9 pages. Look at all this money. Policy advisors. 195,000. Who do you guys want me to look up? Stephen Chung makes 195,000. Just tell me a name. I'll look it up. Look up a few. Stephen Miller. That's a good one. Stephen Miller makes 195,000. Let's do Carolyn Levitt, 195,000. I think I saw Rubio. Rubio isn't. He denied pay. David Sachs denied pay. I think there's another one that I saw that denied pay. Oh, that's not gonna work. Yeah, David Donaldson denied pay. Richard Goldberg said he was not taking a pay. Tracy Johnson, Callie Means, Rubio, Sachs, Paula White, and Steve Witkoff. Let's see what Susie Wiles makes. 195,000. Besant. It's not in there. Any other names? Alfredo Luna. This is just the White House stuff. So like people like Bannon, if you know they're part of something bigger, they're not getting their paycheck from the White House. Michael Waltz. Yeah, this is out there. I'll put this in the chat. You guys can dig through it if you want. Check it out. The U.S. is lifting export licenses on chip design software and ethane for China. Commerce Department has rescinded export license requirements for electronic design automation software and ethane shipments to China. Synopsys, Cadence Design Systems, and Siemens confirmed they are restoring full access to their EDA tools and related technologies. The policy shift implements a framework deal tying U.S. concessions on semiconductors and petrochemicals to faster rare earth mineral approvals by Beijing. Observers say the targeted easing highlights how export controls serve as strategic leverage in U.S.-China supply chain disputes. So this was expected to come. It's just finally coming now. So I'm curious to see like what the end result of this specific trade war is, because the rare earth minerals, the semiconductor stuff, the domestic manufacturing we have basically initiated here at home. Once we get our own domestic like mining of rare earth minerals, and I don't know if that's here. I don't know if we even have them. I'm sure we do, but whether it's here or in Canada or in Ukraine or something. Remember, Trump was trying to get a deal with Ukraine where we would get a bunch of the rare earth minerals, like the right of first refusal, essentially. But that never ended up going through. I'm curious to see where we end up getting it from. It's not going to be China. There's no way they stick with that. I did think this was interesting. Microsoft dumps thousands of American workers in favor of cheaper foreign techies. Between May and June, Microsoft laid off 2,300 employees in Washington alone. That's what's interesting to me. Like they had a ton of employees in Washington and laid off a bunch of them. During the same period, they submitted 6,327 H-1B visa requests for software engineer roles matching the same job titles and locations as those affected by the layoffs. H-1B debate. Gonna come around again. I'd almost guarantee it. Oh, and it is official now. Hakeem Jeffries has broken the record for longest floor speech. This is just a monumental moment in Black History. Is it Black History Month? Or what month was that again? Yeah, he has surpassed Kevin McCarthy and Nancy Pelosi. Crazy. I wonder how long he's going to go, and I wonder when we're actually going to vote on that bill. Nothing new. Oh, Supreme Court is taking up a case on transgender stuff. Supreme Court will take up a new case about which school sports teams transgender students can join. The answer should be none of them. Anyway, the Supreme Court agreed Thursday to hear a case over state restrictions on which school sports teams transgender students can join. Just 2 weeks after upholding a ban on gender-affirming care for transgender youth, the justices said they will review lower court rulings in favor of transgender athletes in Idaho and West Virginia. The case will be argued in the fall. The nationwide battle over the participation of transgender girls in girls' sports teams has played out at both the state and federal levels, as Republicans have leveraged the issue as a fight for athletic fairness for women and girls. I wonder what sports they're talking about. Anyway, buzz through a couple other stories here. White House, Iran way first direct talks since joint strike on nuclear sites. White House envoy Steve Witkoff is expected to meet Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in Oslo next week to restart nuclear talks, according to two sources cited by Axios. Final date has not been set, but it marked the first direct engagement since President Trump ordered strikes on Iranian nuclear sites last month. I thought they'd been talking in the meantime, so maybe this is the first time they're meeting face-to-face. We have the White House is going to be hosting African leaders in Washington to promote trade and investment. We just have people from South Africa up there, and you show them the video of their genocide on TV. And CNN was freaking out, which, by the way, I'll have a clip from Brian Stelter later. President Trump will welcome leaders from 5 African nations to the White House on July 9th for discussions centered on expanding commercial partnerships, White House official says. So, and also Marco Rubio said that the U.S. is moving away from a charity-based aid model and now will prioritize partnerships with nations demonstrating the will and capacity to be self-reliant. That's the way it always should have been. Nice to see us going there. Judge rules Trump's asylum suspension unlawful, delays enforcement pending appeal. Federal judge ruled Wednesday that President Trump's order suspending asylum access at the southern border violates U.S. law. The decision is set to take effect on July 16th, giving the government 2 weeks to appeal. I bet this will get up to the Supreme Court at some point as well. California and 19 states sue the Trump administration over Medicaid data sharing with the Department of Homeland Security. California is leading that coalition of the 19 states. They're upset about the Trump administration giving Medicaid data to the Department of Homeland Security, which oversees immigration. But if there are illegal immigrants on Medicaid, they should be deported. They shouldn't be on there. So I have no problem with that. Doge is merging Palantir. They're merging all the systems anyway. So is what it is. Let me see what else I got here. Oh, another Supreme Court case. Supreme Court declined to hear case challenging parental consent for abortion. I don't think this means the end, because there's a comment in here from Justice Thomas, but I'll read this here quick. Supreme Court declined Thursday to review a Montana law that requires people under 18 to seek parental consent before obtaining an abortion, leaving in place a state court ruling that struck the law down. Montana's law, enacted in 2013, prohibits a doctor from providing an abortion to a patient under 18 without notarized written consent from a parent. The state's highest court had concluded that the law violated the Montana state constitution, which includes broader protections for abortion than the Constitution itself. The Supreme Court did not explain its reasoning, but conservative justices Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas wrote a short statement asserting that technical problems with the case made it a poor vehicle for deciding the questions over such laws, and that it was especially important that the denial not be read as a rejection of the argument the appeal raised. So that's very interesting to me. They're saying, we don't want you to think that the argument you're making is wrong, because it's not. He wouldn't write that unless they agreed with the argument. But for whatever reason, the technical aspects say it's a poor vehicle. I'm curious what they mean by that. I think, here's a good one. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy sent a letter to all 50 governors demanding the state remove any political painting on the roads, including rainbow crosswalks, Rules are for safety, not political messages or artwork. I wonder if people who, like, you know, they burnt out their tires and put skid marks all over the sidewalk paint of the LGBTQ colors and they got in trouble for it. I wonder if they can like sue the government now after this. And then, do I got anything else? I do. I got this from Brian Stelter. This piece of shit.
So, Brian, this is not the first major media company to settle with President Trump. You've been following this, though. Did anything in this settlement or its terms surprise you?
Well, CBS did not actually do anything wrong here. CBS engaged in standard television news editing practices, but its parent company paid the price anyway, with some people likening this to a ransom or even a bribe. The terms are not surprising because, as you said, Paramount's not the first company to do this. Disney's ABC, in some ways, wrote the playbook that Paramount is now relying on, because last December, when Trump was still president-elect, ABC settled with Trump out of court to the tune of $16 million. So here we are again with $16 million heading toward Trump's presidential library. The big difference in this case is that Paramount is trying to get a merger approved by the Trump administration. And that is why the word bribe has come up, with Democratic senators wondering if this was a bribe to try to get the Trump administration to approve the deal. Paramount says no, Trump's FCC says no, but a lot of outside analysts believe that is the case.
Brian, I want to underscore this point you're making.
Ridiculous. I hate that guy. But that's all I have for you guys today. But I do have quite a few rants, so I'm going to go through these. Heartstop, good to see you. Met her at the Lakeland meetup, and she said she watches a lot of times on replay, but doesn't come in the chat. And I've seen her in the chat now a couple times in a row. So make sure you guys are nice and welcoming to Heartstop. It says happy 4 years and happy 4th of July. Thank you. Yeah, guys, yesterday was the 4-year anniversary of the Devolution series. Talked about that last night on the show. And yeah, happy 4th of July tomorrow. I will be doing the show tomorrow. I don't know what we're going to do about Liberty Den tomorrow night. We'll figure something out and let you guys know tomorrow. But this show will be on. Lee Walden. John Bannon remarked that the boss should just use his executive powers to empower his authority to impound the Congress and not pay for the building and all their benefits this morning. Yeah, you know, that's one thing we were talking about on Only Lands the other night on Tuesday. Chris, made the point is if there's stuff in the bill that is like they're trying to force spending of the executive branch stuff and some of these executive agencies, Trump doesn't have to do it. So that's like one workaround I could definitely see him doing. And plus he has the ability to veto stuff, but he has to veto it as a whole. I doubt he'll do that though. He wants this thing signed. Babbage 3, need clarification for the big beautiful swear jar. Do swears while reading the chat count? Does damn count as a count when you call Congress pussies? Well, if I'm not the one who said it, like if I'm reading somebody else say it, that doesn't count. Okay. But you guys can determine. It can be up to you guys if you think damn should count or pussy. Like, I don't care. It's up to you guys. If you think that's a swear jar item, go for it. And then Whiskey Girl for $10 says ban swear jars. The shit happening in the world not only requires fucking F-bombs, it requires a whole fucking lot of them. LOL. Have a great 4th, everyone. See, like that doesn't count. I was reading somebody else's words. They weren't my words. Tiny boy, good to see you, man. Putting the limit on tips prevents me from tipping $25,000 to anyone, including Badlands Media. LOL. Plus, I have to clear that tip amount with JC. No, so you can tip $25,000, but anything above that is what I have to start paying taxes on. Bear BL, $50. Thank you. Happy 4th of July, John and Badlands family. You guys are great. Lee Walden, Mr. Smith goes to Washington and the commie rat bastards Jeffries has corrupted that memory. Whiskey Girl, my apologies for last rant, John. Couldn't help myself. LOL. Happy 4th and congrats on the 4th anniversary. Thank you, Whiskey Girl. Don't have to apologize. And looking forward to seeing you guys in Deadwood. Kilo Higgins, what special sport does SCOTUS need to rule on with boys playing with girls? My guess is handball. There you go, Keith. Awesome. Well, thanks, everybody. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. Pop in the chat, say hi if you haven't yet. And with that, does Ghost have his show today or is that tomorrow? I always forget. Let me see what else is on the agenda today. Looks like we got Taking It Back at 4 p.m. Eastern. Quite frankly, at 7 p.m. Eastern. Sit Rep at 9 p.m. Eastern. Rug Pull Radio at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So another packed day here, Badlands. So stick around, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a happy eve of 4th of July Eve. And we'll see you on this show tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern.
Let's get started.
That's what she said.
Oh, that's real good.
Why they stopping me? Stopping me.